Growing up poor, I have learned some bad financial lessons the hard way. So here are 5 mistakes that have kept me poor and in the cycle and the trap of poverty for far too long. And it might be keeping you in the cycle of being poor as well, if you are guilty of these 5 mistakes yourself. Hopefully not, but if you are, if you want to break free and create a better financial future for yourself, stick around because these lessons might just change your life. I will be going from the order of least impactful lessons to the most impactful lessons to my financial life regarding the financial lessons that I have personally learned from having grown up poor. Big lesson number 1, do not live beyond your means. I remember when I was a kid, after my family had migrated to the US from Vietnam, we had lost most of our money due to migration. And as a result, my parents felt horrible for having ended up poor. You know, like they can't afford anything for their kids, aka me and my brothers. They wanted us to look better, to dress better, and then to be proud when we go to school and at least fit in with the other kids, you know, like at least look like them instead of looking poor or anything like that. As a result, my dad had opened up brand new credit cards when he became legal to buy me and my brothers new iPhones, new iPads, new clothes. That was horrible. This is literally the definition of rat race. My parents were pure consumers at heart. They were not producers. They were far from it. They used to be producers, but I'll go more into that later. And what made it worse was that the fact that they are consumers and then they opened up more debt just to be able to consume. More specifically, my dad did that. Don't do that. According to a 2023 report from the Federal Reserve, about 41% of Americans would struggle to cover a $400 emergency expense. In The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel mentions that being able to have control over your time buys you such happiness in a way that luxuries can never buy you. What you need to do if you have the same mindset as my parents is to change your mindset. Learn to focus on what truly matters. Instead of focusing on buying the materialistic things, shift that focus into family experiences or quality family dinner times, and then learn to prioritize your spending on your needs over your wants. Lower your wants as much as possible. They are just materialistic things. They won't buy you happiness. Your time will buy you happiness. Your family will buy you happiness. Stop being a consumer. That keeps you poor. Instead of focusing on wanting that 2024 Lamborghini, focus on building your assets column so you can buy more time as a result, which as a result, it will make you richer because you have more freedom to make more income, and it will improve your life quality. It will make you happier because you have more time. Reason number 2, not setting goals. For the longest time after we moved to the US, my dad and my mom, they had no financial goals. Before we left Vietnam, my dad had a failed clothing business. And as a result, he had lost all of his money in the business. So after he moved to the US, he gave up on all of his aspirations. When we moved to the US, he was fine with us, a family of 5, living in one room for the rest of our lives. Even when he knows that him and my mom being able to pull resources together and like working together, they can easily afford a 2-bedroom, at least a 2-bedroom apartment or whatever to live in. The point is that they can easily afford a bigger place, but he didn't want to. He was fine with one room for 5 people because who cares about life anymore? Through a lot of fighting, my mom had finally convinced him to agree so that all of us can move into a 2-bedroom apartment. As a result of this, having seen my own dad done this, I have wandered through life initially without any direction. I was purposeless and fearful of my dreams, just as my dad was. I was really scared initially to pursue YouTube because I thought my parent would yell at me for chasing a stupid dream because they had chased their dream and they failed. So obviously they would stop me from becoming a YouTuber. Research shows that individuals with clear goals are 10 times more likely to achieve success. So set specific and achievable financial / aspirational goals that you can achieve. Write them down. Track your progress afterwards. This will give you a great sense of purpose and motivation. And trust me, your life will be 10 times better. You will be 10 times happier and 10 times more likely to become rich and financially freed. Big mistake number 3 that my poor parents have made that you should avoid at all costs is they had focused solely on their income. My parents, since the day that I could start to remember, would have only ever focused on improving and increasing their income every time their expenses gets higher. They never had plan B, such as an emergency fund. Well, technically we did for a point, but like not anymore. Nor did they have any assets that they could have taken out at any point and then put it towards the expenses. We literally only have liabilities. We do not own a single appreciating assets in our household. We don't own a single item that's going up in value by next year. Not even a house. But that's understandable though, because we live in California and a house in California is $1 million. So it's understandable, I think, for the average household in California. As a result, I used to believe that earning and working more and harder would solve all of my financial problems. But the fact is that if you don't manage that income well that you receive through your work, and then you blow it into bad avenues instead of assets, well, as a conclusion of that, it simply just doesn't matter how much you make. Even if you get a high 6-figure salary tomorrow, you will still be stuck in the rat race because you're still going to be spending on that liabilities and you're still going to chase your paycheck after paycheck, and you will never escape the rat race. If you give my parents a 6-figure salary right now, sure, our house will be bigger and our cars will be nicer, but we will never be financially freed and we will never have assets because my parents, they lack an essential key that I will be going more into details later on in this video. But without that key, they will never, ever escape the rat race. I can guarantee it. According to a 2023 survey by the Lending Club, 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. It is normal for an American to live paycheck to paycheck. Basically, what that means is that what my parents are doing is normal. Now, you can view this as a good thing or a bad thing. If you want to view it as a bad thing, well, here's how it's gonna go. Oh God, it is normal for my parents or my coworker or my friends to be in the rat race, so I might as well just keep living paycheck to paycheck, you know? Like, we will never escape this. Or if you want to view it as a good way, well then, here's how it's gonna go. Since it is normal for the average person to live paycheck to paycheck, it makes your competition that much easier to get ahead. It makes it so that if you simply just don't live paycheck to paycheck, that puts you above average. And that will give you more confidence and you easily beat the competition just by not living paycheck to paycheck. And from there, you can keep improving yourself and you will never be caught up. And before you know it, you're in the 1%. So build up that emergency fund, my friend, because that is the first essential step to escaping the paycheck to paycheck rat race. A medical emergency can hit you tomorrow and you will never expect it. And if you don't have an emergency fund built up already to deal with that emergency medical problem, you might end up on the streets. Now that is a harsh example, but you get the point. A less harsh example would be if you're not ready for that medical emergency, well, you will be set back. You might have to open up a new credit card and then you get into debt just to deal with that emergency. You don't want to be set back because you need to be financially free, at least if that's your goal. Learn and focus on investing and budgeting wisely. In Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert mentions that the rich earn and invest while the poor and the middle class work harder for more money the more expenses that they want to spend on or such. That's what I mean by poor and rich. That's the mentality that you need to have. And I will dive deeper into this topic later. Lesson number 4, fear of taking risk. For all of my life, my parents have repeatedly told me to go to school, find a high-paying major, get the major, and get into a good and long and stable job because of the fact that they didn't want me to end up like them later on in life, aka having had a failed business and ending up poor as a result later on in life. What can I say? They gave up. And to be honest, I used to think this was the only path in life as well for a really long time. Because yeah, it seems to be the most secured and the safest path to making something of myself financially. A 2022 report from the Harvard Business Review showed that calculated risk are essential for significant growth. Avoiding risk can mean that you're gonna miss out on opportunities. So it is important to assess risk and embrace calculated risk that can lead to growth. Warren Buffett had made over 400 total investments in his whole life, and he's told us that he has made most of his money from 10 of them. He is currently worth roughly $100 billion. And you're telling me that he has made most of his money from 10 stocks? That's crazy. That proves that risk equal reward. In other words, he was wrong 400 times and he only needed to be right 10 times to become a billionaire with a B, a lot of B's. If there is one pro that I can draw from having grown up poor, that would be the fact that I grew up poor. Because that gives me great motivation to be the one that brings financial freedom to my bloodline. To get there, risk is how I'm gonna get rich. And I will be minimizing it through attaining financial literacy, which is something that I have lacked severely from having grown up poor. And I am no longer talking about our financial status. Instead, I am talking about my parents' mindset regarding money. It was horrifically poor. Now, having said all of these reasons, that leads me to the last reason. And this is the most important reason because this is the root that leads to the rest of the mistakes that a poor family could make. And that is the lack of financial literacy. After having read multiple financial books in the past couple of months, and after having made a lot of online research of my own about money, I now realize that I was growing up in a really, really poor household simply because of the fact that my parents had most of their conceptions about money in a horrifying wrong manner. I can't tell you how many times that I've thought that money is just about making it and spending it. My dad had always taught me that if I want something for myself, just open up a credit card and then you build your credit card. So it's a good thing, you know, and then get that thing and then pay for it later, anytime you want. He himself have opened up so many credit cards that now he's in horrible credit card debt. He was using those credit cards to buy me and my brothers like nice stuff like new phones, new iPads, new laptops, whatever. And he even used those credit cards to take us on vacations with money that he did not have. He would take out loans to buy new cars and then he would say that I can do it too, you know. You should do it too, son. Once I have a decent paying job, you know, once I can afford it, you know, once I can afford the 50% of my paycheck gone, all gone towards the car every single month. My mom constantly tell me to work harder, and as a result, I can buy whatever nice cars or whatever nice house that I can dream of. She had never once mentioned to me that I should buy a stock or a business or any assets. She's never taught me about asset because, and I have mentioned this earlier, but I'll mention it again because it is that bad. Our household does not own a single asset, not one that I know of. Literally everything we own depreciates, which is why I said earlier that even if my parents were high income earners, even with 6 figures salaries, we would probably still not own a single asset, maybe beside a house. That would probably be it, which instantly makes us poor as a result. And the reason why there's not a single stock investment in our household was that my dad, after the business had failed, he had invested all of his money into one singular stock. And guess what happened? 2008 hit, all gone. And ever since then, he's traumatized. He's never invested into the stock market since. Now, is he right to be fearful of the stock market? Well, if you were in his shoes, emotionally, I would say yes. But logically speaking, that was a dumb mistake. And as his son, I will never follow his footsteps, especially when it comes to investing. He should have educated himself about investments. He should have never invested all of his money into one stock. If he had read any books about investments, he would have known that that is a horrible idea. Now, if he was financially educated about investments, maybe he would have put that into an index fund and then just stuck it there. And maybe now our family would be in a much better financial situation than we are right now. And this example further emphasizes my point on the fact that financial literacy is literally your key to either end up rich later on in life or poor later on in life. A 2023 study by the National Endowments for Financial Education reveals that nearly 70% of Americans lack basic financial literacy skills. Again, it is normal to lack financial literacy, which is the issue, which is why I made this video. Understanding how money works, how investments work, how savings work, how budgeting work, all of these are crucial to your financial health and wealth. Take the time to educate yourself on finances, and that's how you get out of the rat race that is keeping you poor. So with all of these lessons combined, I will right now give you a quick step-by-step instruction on how you can take action towards a better financial future today. Step number 1, start with determining your reason on why you want to become rich. Then determine your passion. The reason for this is that if you love something, you are more likely to pursue it for longer time periods. You're more likely to stick with it if you actually like it. And that's important. That's key, because if you don't come for money, you need to play the long game, okay? That's how you get rich. That is gonna be the best path for you to get rich. Step number 2, educate yourself. Read financial books. I will leave a link down below for a few high quality starter financial books that I have personally read myself, and I love them, and I would recommend them to you. But aside from that, there are countless resources out there. So get on it, get on the research, because knowledge is power. For an example, learn the difference between assets and liabilities. Learn on how to either become a defensive investor or an enterprising investor, etc., etc. Step number 3, take action. If you are watching this right now, chances are is that you are no longer a kid. You are an adult now. So stop wasting time with video games or watching shows and go after it. If you've been thinking and wanting to be the one to break the chain of poverty for your family, well, this is it. This is how you do it. You go out there and you take action right now. Sure, you might fail at pursuing your dreams. Sure, something might come up in your life, and that very same thing might set you back financially. And sure, you might lose motivation tomorrow, but remember this: God rewards those who patiently endure testing and temptation, and God will reward them with more riches than they would have ever otherwise have dreamt of. So despite having grown up poor myself, at least once I become wealthy in the future, it would make for a much better story, because I am coming from no money than if I had come from money. And that's one way on how I look at my past in a good and positive light. Also, I want to say that I am forever grateful for my mom for having sacrificed so much for this family. She might have had a poor mindset, but she had never ever been a slacker. She's always worked hard for us, and she's always tried her best to make us happy, and I appreciate her for that. I don't want this video to come off as me saying like, oh, I regret this. No, I am just accepting my past, and I am just gonna learn from it, but I'm still gonna appreciate my mom for the sacrifices she's made in her own way, which is why I will make the most of it, and I will buy us a big house one day. So yeah, Comment down below if you have anything to add to this video. And if you want more details on how I have grown up poor, watch this video. And I want to know, did you grow up poor too? If so, I am rooting for you, my friend. I wish you all the best of luck. Anyways, that's about it. Bye.